Today's podcast is brought to you by Audible.com. Get a free audiobook download and a 30-day free trial at www.audibletrial.com/WiseGuyRadio. Over 180,000 titles to choose from for your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or MP3 player. That's at www.audibletrial.com, AUDIBLETRIAL.com/WiseGuyRadio. This is the Wise Guy Radio Show, a podcast dedicated to educating and inspiring through conversations with today's top talents in the world of glass. We will be dissecting their journeys in hopes to deliver actionable content that you, the artist, can start implementing now, helping you grow not only as a creative spirit, but also a successful artistic entrepreneur. With a little organization, relationship building, and your artistic ability, you can obtain greatness. Climb aboard, whether an artist, retail owner, or enthusiast. We have a ton of fun in store for you. Welcome to the Wise Guy Radio Show. Hey, what's happening, everybody? Welcome to the Wise Guy Radio Show, episode number 31. In this episode, we have a special guest, Adrienne Ladd, also known as @GlassHappy on Instagram, and also in the world of glass, known as the Bacon Face Lady. She's been on the torch for several years, and recently, in the past, 2 to 3 years, has become better known for her bacon and egg face pendants that she makes. But also recently, she's probably been better known for her topics on Instagram and social media with her health, as she discusses what she's been going through. A lot of it she's finding is related specifically to glass and her exposure to the toxins that are in the materials that we use, and the lighting and everything else going on with the torch and what have you. She gets into pretty heavy detail about her health itself and where she's been going with it and where she is at now, and her future plans in the world of the torch work. And it's an unfortunate, tragic story, but it's also a wake-up call for those of us out there that don't have the proper setups in our studios with healthy ventilation, good lighting, the whole 9 yards. We can't stress enough how important ventilation is. So that's one of the main topics that we get into, and she also discusses the origins of her work and some other fun stuff. But really, this is a PSA type of show, solely dedicated to Adrienne and her health and her kind of putting out there what she hopes that we can learn from. I'm not gonna say the mistakes that she made, but kind of an ignorant kind of setup. When you first get going in the torch world, you're kind of like, oh, I'm so excited, I just want to get up and get my torch lit and just get busy. But there's so much more involved in becoming a lamp worker and glass artist than just getting a torch and turning it on and getting to work. Whether even if you're doing stained glass, whatever, there's so many different variables that are involved with toxins and chemicals and dust and whatever else that we deal with on a regular basis that you really need to pay attention to. Even when you're cleaning your bench, for instance, one of the best things you can do is to pick up your chunks by hand and then get a mister and spray your bench down and wipe it off. A lot of folks out there in the world will use tile, like a marble tile, or even like a tin for the top, so it makes it really easy to clean. The HardieBacker board tops are good because they're fireproof, but when you want to spray them, obviously it gets them wet, and it's not as easy to necessarily wipe up. And when you sweep it with a hand brush, it actually will create more dust than what you really want, unless, of course, you are wearing a respirator, because even holding your breath after the fact isn't going to really help as much as it could as protection. So just some kind of things to think about. It's again, it's a tragic story, and I'm sure she's not the only person out there in the world of our industry as a glass artist that is dealing with health issues that are directly related to blown glass, or the stuff that we deal with, the toxins. She does explain that glass blowing isn't what made her sick, that glass blowing is what has exacerbated and triggered the illnesses that she had already inside of her, that she was somewhat unaware of until they really became exacerbated and are at a chronic level to where she almost feels at the times sometimes that she's gonna die. I mean, it's pretty scary stuff. So, without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, I want to introduce you guys to a great friend of mine and a great friend of our community, and someone who I will be bringing on more than just this one time as we continue to discuss topics such as health and longevity as a glass artist. So I hope you guys enjoy. Love you guys. Take care. Thanks so much for tuning in. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye. What's going on, Adrienne? How are you?
I'm pretty good. How are you?
Doing good, doing good. So I'm glad to have you on the show. The main purpose for having you on the show today is because you have been dealing with some health issues, and part of my shows is to talk about issues that we have with as being a glass artist, whether it's health issues, mental issues, what have you, and yours specifically is health issues that are directly related to the torch, which is crazy.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And so I wanted to bring you on to discuss this, and before we get into that portion of the topics of conversation, why don't you give us a little bit of background on yourself and who introduced you to the torch?
Yeah, absolutely. I never intended to be a glassblower. I knew glassblowers for, I think, about a decade before I ever got behind the torch. And I knew that the opportunity was there. I remember saying to multiple people that I had no interest. I didn't want to get cut and burnt every day or take years off of my life, which in retrospect is really interesting, of course. So what ended up happening is I had some really awful stuff happen to me, as it happens sometimes in our lives. And I was in a really bad spot, and I needed somewhere safe to live where I could recover with my child and sort of live rent-free so I could just heal. And these wonderful people took me in, and when I moved in with them, they were glassblowers. I never, ever intended to become a glassblower. It was supposed to be temporary. It was just so I could heal up and get going, but I didn't have anywhere to go. And so one day I was in the basement where the shop was, and I was watching him blow glass, and he looked at me and he said, "You could do this." And I said, I guess I probably could. And I didn't have any other options at the time. I was 27, and the universe decided that blowing glass was my only option. And so shortly after that conversation, I got behind the torch. It was Christmas Eve, 6 years ago, and I made icicles. I was having a really, really bad night, and I could barely see through my tears. That was my first experience behind the torch. I did give all of those icicles to my relatives, and it was pretty cool, the next day. Yeah. After that, I started learning proto. I just immediately moved on to, tiny little pipes, and the rest is pretty much history. I apprenticed there for 2.5 years before moving into my own shop.
Interesting. So what was it that kept you going? Was it the fact that you found that you can make a living doing the art itself, or was it the glass that, kind of kept you going? Like, what was the...
For the first couple years, it was just survival. That was it. If I didn't blow glass to support myself, then I was going to starve. Yeah. That was, pretty much the deal. You certainly don't make that much when you're in the beginning and apprenticing for someone, but I was learning a trade. I had somewhere to live. And so I didn't even really like it for the first couple years. I'm not going to lie. I was making like super, super simple proto. I wasn't having any sort of not much anyways, creative expression or freedom or anything like that. And so I was frustrated, I suppose, but it was really my only source of income. And so it was what it was. Once I finally got my own spot and my own studio, I started to enjoy it because then I was making the rules, of course, and everything changes at that point. But that's really when my health started really declining too, was a few years in, by the time I had my own situation.
Yeah, so before you did the glass, did you find that you had health issues beforehand that you were aware of?
Yeah, I always had sort of little warning signs. In retrospect, now that I've researched my situation, I can see that some of my symptoms go back 20 years. So, the thing with autoimmune disease is that you have to have a genetic predisposition for it. You have to have the genes that say that you're going to get it. But just having the genes isn't enough to give you the disease. You have to get your body to a point of being really unhealthy and so imbalanced that it actually triggers those genes. Yeah. And so I had the perfect storm of shit, basically. And unfortunately, glassblowing in not the best conditions was a large contributing factor. I cannot stress ventilation enough. My ventilation setup right now is better than a lot of what I see online, which is really sad because my ventilation setup right now is not good. The shop where I apprenticed, the first couple years that I worked there, the ventilation was awful. And I'm sure, that's been a large contributing factor as well, not just my own shop. Once I was there for a couple years, there were some upgrades that were made. The last 6 to 9 months that I worked there, it was much better. I noticed a big difference. I have these conversations with fellow glassblowers on Instagram, on Facebook, all the time. I'm constantly trying to get the word out to help prevent this from happening to other people. And I get a lot of, and I understand this argument, but I get a lot of, well, it's either I upgrade my ventilation or I pay my rent and feed my family. And I get it, but it's still not worth your life.
Yeah,
it's not worth your health.
That's why I preach a lot too about that. Because like when people start getting into doing this, if they have a job, just keep the job until you can really get yourself to a point to where you're 100% healthy, because like you're saying, it's so easy to want to jump into this, which is what got me started doing this podcast. Again, I've said it 1,000 times, is seeing kids on Instagram blowing glass in their bedrooms with a box fan in the window. And besides the safety hazard,
it can't be blowing glass in your living space. The silica dust, I mean, the fumes, the everything. No matter how good your ventilation is, I'm sorry, you're still breathing it in, like even tiny bits. And the thing with autoimmune disease is once you turn that gene on, and we all pretty much have different genetic predispositions for different autoimmune diseases. It's just a matter of how sick you need to get before those genes get turned on. Once you turn them on, it's almost impossible to turn them off. And it's like your body, once it learns to fight itself, it can never unlearn that. So there are no cure for these things. They're lifelong chronic illnesses, and a lot of them are terminal. And it's really scary. I'm at the point now, I've been struggling for a few years trying to figure out what the heck is wrong with me, knowing that glass blowing was making me sick. I didn't know that, if it was the heat or the light from the torch or the fumes or what it was. I just knew that every time I went out there, I basically felt like I was going to die. It was really bad.
Yeah,
but again, just like those other people, it was my only source of income. It was either go blow glass or be homeless and starve. And so, I chose to blow glass. And now I'm at the point where my health is giving me no choice. I have to stop. I can't blow glass anymore. And unfortunately, it's gotten to the point where I can't even hold a regular job. My flare-ups are so bad and so unpredictable. If I were to try to get a regular job, I would lose it immediately. Sometimes I'm out for weeks at a time. And even on good days, I can't leave my house during the day unless it's completely overcast. I'm not supposed to be in the sun at all. Like, it's crazy. There's so much that I can't do. At this point, I can't stand up without my heart rate spiking to dangerous levels. Getting across the room, I risk having a stroke, a seizure, or a heart attack. It's like super duper intense. I actually am applying for disability because I can no longer take care of myself. I'm 32 years old. I had to buy a cane yesterday.
Yeah,
like
scary.
A walking cane.
God.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, it sucks. That's why I reached through the phone and give you a hug.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I mean, definitely not what I expected my life to be like. I've known for probably over a year that whatever I've been dealing with is autoimmune. But it's really hard to accept. It's really hard to accept that this is now my life and that, I can try as I might, but I'm probably not going to get better. And knowing that I probably could have prevented it, at least from getting this bad, is really hard.
Yeah.
Looking back on different things, it wasn't just glass blowing. It was sort of like the glass blowing lifestyle. You work 12, 14, 16-hour days. You don't eat well because you're so busy behind the torch. There was alcohol involved, certainly. Yeah. Not a ton of it or anything, but enough if you have all those other stress factors, everything sort of lined up. And, running your own business, trying to support yourself, not having a steady paycheck, that's super stressful. It was just so many different aspects of the glass blowing lifestyle sort of combined that I think, were such large contributing factors. Yeah. I can't really say that I wouldn't have gotten sick if I wasn't a glass blower, but I don't think I would have gotten anywhere near as sick as I am.
Yeah, it's amazing. There, like you're saying, it's so easy. It's almost a habitual easiness, I should say, to be exactly what you described, to work the 12 to 16-hour days, to maybe have a snack in between that, hardly have any kind of fluids, and if you do have fluids, you have alcohol. I know when I did, it was easy just to have a 12-pack in the fridge in the studio or whatever in the house or whatever, and You know,
it's a job where you can drink while you're at work.
Exactly.
As long as you don't get wasted.
Yeah, totally. So I think by having you on here though, it's like, but it really shows where my perspective is on how easily it is for us to make this healthy for us as a business. To work small shifts, to work 3 hours at a time, and to take a break. I mean, you got to get away from it.
No, that's huge. That's absolutely huge. And it's like so many of us, there's such pressure within the community to really hustle, to really just like work all the time. And if you don't work 16-hour days, well, then you're not a real glass blower or whatever,
Yeah.
And it's like, so I definitely, I've always been a worker bee. I've always been super productive, whether I was a glass blower or not. Always go, going. Not a lot of balance in my life. And, that's definitely been, I guess that's probably part of having an addictive personality. I think a lot of us, as glass blowers are addicts in some way or shape or form. It certainly attracts us to it. We get addicted to glass blowing itself. We can get addicted to anything, really.
Yeah.
I got addicted to eating good food. It could be worse, but you certainly can become addicted to anything.
Yeah, I agree.
And
it's like that whole workaholic thing too. It's like I know myself.
Absolutely.
If I'm not sitting still, it's like, or if I am sitting still, I should say, it makes me crazy. It makes me I feel like I have to go do something. I have to do something constantly.
Yeah, absolutely. No, absolutely. And it's like, I could have maybe taken some breaks, maybe, done something to make sure my ventilation was better. I could have, instead of working 16-hour days, worked, 12-hour days instead and had the shift split up or, whatever. Taking those breaks, getting fresh air, super important, staying so hydrated, eating the right foods. And I normally am not a big proponent of sunblock because of all the weird chemicals in it. Some of these terrible, strong chemical sunblocks will cause skin cancer all in themselves. However, there is a lot of UV radiation that comes off of the torch. And a lot of us light our studios with fluorescent lighting. I'm not sure if you know this, but the UVB that comes off of fluorescent lighting is more carcinogenic to your skin than the actual sun. So it's like even the fluorescent lights that are over us in our shops are causing problems, even for people who don't have autoimmune disease. I've done extensive research on this. I don't have an official diagnosis as of yet because these things are ridiculously hard to get, but I'm almost, 100% positive that I have lupus. And that's like the worst one you could have if you want to be a glass blower because UV exposure is one of the largest triggers. And so not only was it the UV coming off of my torch, but it was also the lights in my shop. I got some covers for them. There's a company called Naturalux, and they make covers for fluorescent lights that block 99.9% of the UV radiation coming off of them.
Okay.
The difference that I felt in my shop after that was phenomenal. But at this point, if I do want to make anything, I have to be completely covered. I have to have long sleeves. I have to wear, Kevlar gloves, basically. I have to have a face shield. I have a blast shield on my torch, and I can still only make maybe one thing at a time before I feel like I'm going to die and have to go somewhere else and leave the studio, which is like super intense. It would be a lot better if I'd known some of this before it had happened, but I just had no idea. There are so many people are learning either from YouTube in their own garages or in somebody else's garage. They're being taught by people who don't know what the fuck they're doing. It's just, there aren't a lot of regulations in our industry, or at least they're not being followed. And so without that information out there, people just don't know. And a lot of people don't really care, but I guarantee you they'll care once they have a terminal illness.
I'm going to really get myself involved with him in terms of, we're going to start looking at what it's going to take to start a guild or a union of some sort. So we have a definitive industry standard that we have to follow if you want to be involved in this union. And through the union, as anybody else in any other union, you have representation, whether it's law, everything that's there. But they have a specific strict standard that they have to follow. Otherwise, you can't be a part of it. And you get inspected the whole 9 yards. And as the laws change and we're taken more seriously, we can actually get to that point to where legally we can become inspected as a glass blower, as a pipe maker, to make sure that we're doing everything properly, and to health code as well. Even though this shit's expensive, I mean, I tell everybody, it's like, you get into glass blowing, just because you can get a torch set up for like $500, that ain't it. I mean, you need to spend like anywhere from $2,000 to $5,000 on
I
as
would
a
say
minimum.
upwards of 5. You really want to make sure your ventilation is top notch.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
we don't get another body.
Yeah.
This is it. I breathed in bad stuff for too many years and I can't take it back.
Yeah. And you see all these old cats that have been doing this for, 35, 45 years. Some of them don't have any issues, but a lot of them have issues, whether it's cataracts you're dealing with or skin cancer or some kind of, lung shit, Especially look back to the old days, the old factory, furnace workers that are dealing with silicosis and, all kind of crap that we have to deal with. And because there's such this large now influx in community of what we have, it's, I hate to see in 20 years from now this generation of artists that all have cancer and we all, are sick as shit and we all die because we're not smart about what we're doing.
A lot of us are going to be.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, and that's, it's important.
It's young, this type of glass blowing in America. I know it's been around for a while, but as far as it really like blowing up and becoming popular, it's a very new thing. And so we just don't have like a ton of examples of people that have gotten sick from it. They're either not being public about it or they're kind of old to be as vocal about this as possible. And I know it annoys the shit out of some people. And I don't really care. I'm trying to share my journey with this in the hopes of helping others, Yeah. I wish that somebody had shared this information with me. It probably would have, changed the way that I did things if I really understood what I was putting at risk.
Yeah, I agree, and that's also thank you so much too for coming on because that's from the very beginning when I started doing this, and I've had dermatologists lined up. I have a hematologist I'm going to talk to about blood toxins and stuff and metals, heavy metal poisoning, and as you and I we've been friends for a while now. We've been so I know what your struggles have been, but I wanted to bring you on because I knew this would be such a big topic of discussion. I'm not going to say it's controversial in a sense, but it's going to wake up people to understand that this is not bullshit. Like the serious health ramifications that we have to deal with are real.
The heavy metal poisoning that we get from the fumes is a very large contributing factor with all autoimmune disease. Basically what happens is the heavy metals get into your body and they want to attach to your vital organs. Your body, to protect itself, creates a candida infection. A candida infection is an overgrowth of certain yeasts and funguses basically in your body. And your body creates this. It makes you crave sweets and starches. And so I'm sure being Americans, we all know what it's like to crave sweet starches. And so basically that feeds the candida. So you start, wanting to drink more alcohol, wanting to eat more dessert, that type of stuff, or, potato chips, whatever your particular thing is. And then what happens is that the heavy metals will bind to the candida infection rather than binding to your vital organs. So it is your body's way of trying to protect itself. Unfortunately, a bad candida infection is enough to trigger an autoimmune disease. And so that is how the heavy metals contribute. I was tested. I had a heavy metal panel done not that long ago, and I came back high in both lead and arsenic. I had my well water tested. I had the soil tested. I mean, I had everything tested, and it's not coming from my house. I checked with all the American color companies, and they say they don't use lead or arsenic in any of their color. But I will say that I use a lot of China white. And I remember back when I was apprenticing, when the guy that I apprenticed for would order color and he would order China white, whoever he ordered from would warn him to hold his breath when he was using it because they use such a large amount of something called lead arsenate. It's also used, I guess, in soft glass. In some varieties of soft glass with an opaque white. And so I guess China also uses it in their boro. And so the heavy metal poisoning that I have is most definitely from using China white. It's interesting that none of my other metals came back high because I know that a lot of the colors that I use a lot of cadmiums. I use colors that have silver in them. So I know that I have been somewhat exposed to that, but I think that the levels of metal in the American colors are so much less than the unregulated stuff that comes out of Asian countries. And so, I mean, that's definitely where my heavy metal poisoning came from, was from the China white. I didn't stop using China white. It didn't, once I realized what it was, it didn't make me stop using it. It certainly made me, be more cautious and hold my breath more. And I have upgraded my ventilation a little, but it's certainly still not up to par.
Well, yeah, that's, Yes, interesting, because I make Olaf, made like 600 of them since last year for Disney, and I use China White to make him with. And not
Yeah.
only am I being
Yeah.
exposed to it, but also our guests coming in the shit door are
Yep.
potentially being exposed to it, because our ventilation is like nil to nothing in the studios that we know where we work. We've got amazing air conditioning systems, but there's there's no ventilation like
They
at all ever.
they have the money. They should really invest in that.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah. So
Yeah, no,
yeah,
China
I'm
White
gonna
is
make a
bad.
phone call tomorrow and say, hey, let's start
should have-
ordering North Star White instead of China White to make this with.
Well, you know what actually is the best white that's comparable to China is Tag's Whiteout.
Okay.
Tag's Whiteout is it's the closest as far as opacity and how it works and everything.
Yeah, and I have to look into that, because I use I think it's like 16 to 18 mil diameter rods, to make the character, because he's a bigger size piece. So you need to have to get a hold of Troutman to see if he'd manufacture a larger diameter for us as a custom size, type of thing.
Yep.
Yeah, so interesting, because like I'm going to be there on Tuesday, and I asked my manager what I should be making, and he's like, of course, make Olaf, because that's all, I specialize in right now.
Of course. Yeah.
So every time I make him, I'll be like, oh man, I'm sitting here killing myself.
Yeah, I mean, can't you smell it when you're working with it?
No, no, that's what I'm saying. Like,
Then your ventilation is better than mine.
yeah, like it's the like kind of a backup story. I also work at if those have been to Epcot, we have the Mexican Pavilion there, and the Mexican Pavilion, we're a small little store, and my bench studio space is right in the middle of the room when you first walk in the door, and above my bench there's a kind of a archway, kind of tunnel that goes to the front of the door. And one day I was making a little flower, and the pedal dropped underneath my bench, and I had my tool bag just by chance under my bench, and it fell into my tool bag and caught my bag on fire. And I have like 50 people. Yeah, it was crazy. And I have like, a store full of people watching me, and all of a sudden like this plume of smoke comes pouring out from under my bench. And of course the store clears out, but the smoke went up to that tunnel and went immediately out of the store. It was amazing. It's like, oh, it actually made me feel better about the ventilation systems or situation in the store, because of the way that this smoke just immediately got out of there.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like your ventilation is okay if you can't smell it. I can't smell any of the other glass that I work with, only the China White.
Interesting. Yeah, I never thought about the smells. Because I know like the off gases just from the propane and oxygen alone has its own smell to it. I've been in studios where
just the off gassing from the propane too is bad for you. That's super dangerous.
Yeah. Huh. Interesting. So I'm glad we're talking about this, because it's so important, especially now with the experimentation with all these new colors coming out. Because like when I started in '99, we had like 6 colors. I mean, in all reality, and now we've got we're getting close to the soft glass Moretti palette, where they've got several hundred colors to choose from. So, are you there? Okay, cool, you're there. So the signal.
Yeah,
sucks.
I'm there. I lost you for a second.
But so it's
Another thing that's good to know is that Kevlar, or those like heat-proof pads that we use to wipe our stuff off when they come out of the kiln, if those materials get burnt, basically, when you rub something on it and you can smell your heat pad burn, it's releasing arsenic into the air. And if you smell your Kevlar or your heat pad burn, that means you're breathing in arsenic.
Interesting.
Yep.
Okay, I won't be doing that anymore.
Yep.
Holy shit. Come on, Adrienne, you're killing me.
I'm sorry. That's why a lot of people, will use like a natural bristle, sort of smallish kind of broom brush, or just a piece of cardboard to wipe their stuff off, because you're not going to hurt yourself if you burn a little piece of cardboard or something natural. But if you're smelling anything when you're rubbing on Kevlar or those heat-proof pads, you are most certainly breathing in arsenic.
All right. Yeah, I'm going to get a wet piece of newspaper then, soft glass style, and just stick it on my bench.
Yep.
That's what I've done in the past, because I definitely have an old sleeve that I use to wipe my shit off on.
Yeah, I mean, I have been. I still do it. I just hold my breath so I don't smell it. So my ventilation takes it away, I hope, at least.
Yeah.
Yep.
Man, oh man. So, because I go back to the lupus thing and you're not being diagnosed. That was honestly the first thing that I wanted to talk about with you was, that was my thought, was that you probably have lupus because of the symptoms that you're dealing with just light exposure alone.
Yeah, I mean, it's so obvious. It's so obvious. It's just, doctors worry about misdiagnosing people, because sometimes a misdiagnosis is more dangerous than not getting a diagnosis.
Yeah.
And so they're just, because of lawsuits and everything, they're just like super, super careful not to tell you that you have something when they're not sure, especially if they're trying to treat you with medications. They don't want to be treating you with medications if it's not for something that you need. And so I'm on state insurance, so it's just difficult for me to get in with specialists. But right now, I'm waiting for rheumatology. I have an appointment on September 28th. My birthday is the next day. I feel like for my birthday, they're going to tell me I have lupus, which will be both sad and happy at the same time. As much as that's like never what you want to hear, validation of what I've been going through would be nice. Diagnosis is a really important part of this. And I hope that, I've been trying to avoid drugs the entire time. I really don't like taking pharmaceuticals. But at this point, I think I need them. My kidneys are like not processing anything, which is like super scary. You really need your kidneys. But that's where lupus attacks you. It can attack you anywhere. It can attack any organ or any part of literally anything, which is kind of crazy. You never know when it's coming, a flare up. You never know how bad it's going to be. You don't know what it's going to attack, and you have no idea how long it's going to last. I would say that for the past 6 months, I have more often been flared than not been flared. So I'm kind of almost always sick. Yeah, it's super intense. It attacks my face. I get the face rash. I've posted plenty of horrifying pictures of it. I also get that same rash sort of on my chest, my shoulders sometimes, and the backs of my hands. It attacks my lungs, my heart, my kidneys, all of my joints, my muscles. It's super intense. Sometimes my foot will flare up and I won't be able to walk for a week. That's why I just bought that cane. It can be anything. And it's like, it's so unpredictable. You have no idea. It's sort of like it has a mind of its own. I've changed my diet. And, if I hadn't changed my diet, I think I might already be dead. That's how sick I was. Changing my diet was huge. Unfortunately, like I said before, not only can I not leave my house during the day unless it's completely overcast. I can, but I'll pay for it dearly for days after. But what I can't eat is like out of control. And again, I say I can't eat. I'm making those choices. If I eat these things that I'm quote unquote not supposed to eat, I get extraordinarily sick. It's easier to tell you what I can eat than to tell you what I can't eat. I can eat organic produce as long as it's not too sweet. I can't have fruit that's too sweet. And I can't have any nightshades. Nightshades are tomatoes, peppers, eggplant. What else? Tomatoes, peppers, eggplant. There's another one in there. But, and I can't have, I'm sorry. I was saying what I can have. That's much easier. I can have organic produce, like I said, that doesn't have those restrictions, and I can have organic grass-fed meat and wild-caught seafood. That's it. I can't have any additives. I can't have any preservatives. There's no nuts. There's no dairy. There's no grains. There's no packaged anything. Like literally nothing. Like that's it. I used to be really into food, and I got a lot of joy from eating things that were delicious. Yeah. And not to say that vegetables can't be delicious, but it's not the same,
Yeah, I agree.
It's not the same at all. And at first I thought that I would be making these adjustments temporarily to get myself healthy again so that I could go back to eating whatever the heck I wanted. And now I'm realizing that it's just a complete lifestyle change. So all of a sudden, I can't blow glass. I can't medicate anymore. I'm a legal patient. I'm in a legal state. But unfortunately, that type of medicine exacerbates my symptoms, and it makes me really sick. I think it's because my kidneys don't work, and so they're not able to filter everything that's coming in. Yep. So that used to be a big part of my life. I can't medicate. I can't blow glass. I can't go outside in the sun. I can't, enjoy the outdoors anymore. I can't eat the food that I like anymore. I can't drink alcohol. And I'm always in pain, and I'm always sick. I'm always feel like I'm about to throw up. I'm always dizzy. Like I said, every few weeks I might get a few hours where I feel close to normal. And when that happens, I usually cry because I've forgotten what healthy feels like. And, I'm reminded like, wow, oh yeah, I did once feel good. And it usually only lasts a few hours. It's super intense. I certainly appreciate those good few hours every time I get them. but I never expected this to be my life at 32.
Yeah, it's crazy. I'm thinking here, these back-to-back episodes are can maybe deter a lot of people from wanting to be glass artists, right? At least as pipe artists, between the laws and shit we're dealing with and all the potential, ramifications from that, and the health issues and stuff. It's not for everybody. That's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, there are some very serious risks, not only to your health, but to your freedom, to everything. Yeah. I mean, it's pretty hardcore. Absolutely.
Craziness. So I know we had already kind of talked about this off the air kind of thing, but so you're saying, because you are passionate about this community and you love what we all do, even though you've transitioned, you still do some, hand pipes and what have you, but, most everybody knows you for your bacon and egg faces, which is, which is
since
awesome.
I've gotten sick, I haven't been able to do much functional work just because it's bigger. Honestly, I don't make as much per hour, because it takes longer. Before it didn't matter. I was, needing to do everything. But because my time behind the torch is so limited, I can only spend, for the past several months, I'm lucky if I get 5 hours a week behind the torch.
Yeah.
And so if I'm only going to be out there for 5 hours, I'm going to make bacon faces because it's what the people want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So do you see yourself staying in the realm of our community, in terms of, still going and, because I know you mentioned potentially maybe having a retail store one day or something, but, Yeah,
that is something, if I can ever figure out how to fund something like that, I would love to be able to stay within the community. It feels like this is my home, it's another really sad part of this, and so I'd love to be able to have a retail store and, be able to not blow glass, but still be involved and still be supporting the community and be a part of it. I just don't know how quickly that'll happen for me. It will really depend on my health and my financial situation, but that certainly is the goal. And, if I left my house early enough and left the store late enough, I wouldn't really have to be outside during the day.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
have like the night owl store or something like that from 8 p.m. to 6 a.m. Whatever.
It's certainly a way for me to stay involved. I don't really see any other way for me to stay involved other than to selling other people's work.
Yeah. Well, it's definitely, I don't know. I'm usually not speechless. I usually have lots to say, but I'm kind of like, holy shit, man, I need to go find another job.
I know, I'm sorry. I don't mean to be so scary. But
no, it's why we're doing this, honey.
It's a real risk. And I know that somebody else, everybody has a different genetic predisposition and different factors. Someone else could have blown glass next to me in the same studio at the same time and not gotten sick. So I'm not saying that I guarantee you that if you expose yourself to this stuff that you'll get sick in the same time frame that I did. We're all so different, but
I agree.
Definitely possible.
Yeah, it's like the whole the abusive great asshole uncle who's an alcoholic and a drunk and smokes like 5 packs of cigarettes a day. And he outlives the entire family, but then like the guy that runs a marathon and is super healthy and drops dead of a stroke or something,
Yep. We all know those types.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Maybe I should have been a jerk. Maybe I'd live longer. I don't know.
Yeah, being an asshole keeps you living longer.
I think it must. I think maybe it's the not caring, less stress, right?
Yeah.
If you just don't care.
Yeah, it makes sense, yeah.
Yeah.
Huh. We should write a book about that. The life of an asshole.
I think people probably have.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. I think I know some people who studied those books,
Yeah. Yeah, I hear you. That's crazy. So, I don't know. I'm trying to think like where to go with this because I guess we can just follow up, what's your next step? Because I know you said you're going to be going in for testing and stuff. Like, if you find that it's not lupus,
if I find out that it's not lupus, the only way that it could not be lupus is if they're not willing to diagnose me as that yet. Because that's totally what I have.
Yeah.
So it could be that they still, there's like a list of 11 pieces of criteria that they diagnose you on. There isn't a specific blood test for lupus. It doesn't work that way. There isn't even a specific gene that they look for. You can have a combination of a bunch of different genes that can lead to it. There are different types of lupus. So basically, if they're not sure which connective tissue disorder you have, there are a few that are similar. There's another one called EDS. It's called Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. I know a glass blower that has it actually. And I know of a few other glass blowers that also have autoimmune problems that also seem like lupus, but they could be something else that's very similar. Basically, if the doctors don't feel confident enough to really tell you that you have one specific type of connective tissue disorder, they diagnose you with a non-specific. They just tell you, okay, you have a connective tissue disorder, but we don't know which one.
Right.
So it's like, that's what because of my symptoms, it's very obvious that I have a connective tissue autoimmune disorder. It's also very obvious that it's lupus if for some reason they don't have the lab work that they think they need to back that up. And they don't always. There's a test that they do to check your autoimmune antibodies, basically. It's called an ANA. And 50% of lupus patients have their ANA come back negative. Basically, if you have any autoimmune disease, your ANA is supposed to come back positive. But 50% of people who are diagnosed with lupus don't have an ANA come back positively. So there's not always that type of blood work to back it up. And it's usually diagnosed based on symptoms, which is why I'm pretty confident that they'll tell me that's what I have.
Yeah, yeah. This episode of the Wise Guy Radio Show is sponsored by Wise Guy Media, a new company dedicated to showcasing the talents and offerings of their customers through podcasting, eye-catching graphics, logo, and customized web design. Established in 2015, Wise Guy Media is continuing to push the elements of web and logo design with outside-of-the-box ideas and up-to-date graphic generating programs. Whether you want to launch your own podcast, need a website, or a new logo for your brand, they have all your needs covered to promote yourself and get your brand recognized in your industry. To see what they've been up to, check out their site, www.sonyermedia.com/wiseguy, for a sample of what they've been doing to help get this podcast off the ground. That's www.sonyermedia.com/wiseguy. I want to go back real quick because I want to.
Yep.
I'm curious myself, and I know everybody else is because you're known for your bacon and egg faces. I want to talk about that, like how you got to doing that.
Oh, yeah, how that happened? That's fine.
Part of your career here, and that a lot of us know you as through social media and what have you, is your bacon and egg faces, which are super cute and fun. And, I wear my pendant all the time, and people always compliment me on it. I wear it to breakfast, actually, a lot when we go out, so it's kind of...
Yeah, of course. Diners love them, absolutely.
Yeah, hell yeah. So what was the origins of that? Like, what got you... inspired to do that, bacon and egg faces?
Okay, well, I have a child, and I do often make faces on her plate, so I'm into making, faces with the food on the kids' plates. But if, to be like perfectly honest, when I was apprenticing, the guy that I worked for, he didn't make a lot of pendants, and sometimes he would vend. I was working for him. They would vend at music festivals during the summer. Some of those festivals, they weren't able to have functional glass out, and so they needed just a lot of non-functional art. So whenever we would prepare for those festivals, I would get to make pendants, and I'm self-taught on pendants because he wasn't a pendant maker. He did, make a few here and there. So one day we're preparing for one of these festivals where we can only have non-functional art out, and he made this pendant, and I think he intended it to be bacon. I'm pretty sure. Not a bacon and egg face or anything, but just like some bacon. It was so messy that it was like hard to tell if it was supposed to be bacon or not. and so I honestly just wanted to one-up him. Like, that's really what it was.
Hell
it was
yeah.
The guy I worked for, and I was just like, yo, I could do that better. And I just thought for like 1 second, I was just like, oh, a face with eggs. And so I made, some little bacon stringers, and back in the day, I was making them on hollow. I make them on solid now. And so that's all I knew. I had just been learning implosions, basically. And so, I made the first one. I post it every few months or so, for Throwback Thursday, because it's fun, because it's so messy and ridiculous. But I made it, and I was really excited. And I was like, look. And he actually named it. He said, whoa, bacon face. And it was just on. I worked for him for a few years, and so I kind of became known in the festival scene for the bacon faces. After the first summer, I didn't go on the road with him anymore. I stayed home, but all my glass went to the shows with him. And so, people knew to look at that booth for bacon faces. And then once I got my own shop, my road is terrible. I live in Maine. I live in the middle of nowhere. I'm down a private dirt road and a very steep dirt driveway. And getting oxygen delivered here is a nightmare. And so the first year that we had our shop, I spent almost 2.5 months without oxygen, and I was depressed and very broke. And when I finally got a tank in the spring, the first thing I made was a bacon face because, well, it was my thing, you know, and that's what I wanted to make. It was easy and fun, and I was super excited. And my friend, at the time, his name was Plum Tuckered on Facebook. I think that Facebook has made him change it since. Yeah. But my friend Plum, he messaged me and he said, "All right, girl, show us what you made. You know, what's the first thing you made after your big long break?" And so I said, "All right, I'll post it." And I posted a bacon face, and it immediately I had never posted one of those on the internet before. I didn't have a large following. Nobody knew who I was. And a couple really big names ended up liking it. I was like really excited. Marble Slinger liked my photo. Tomomi Honda liked my photo. I was just like, wow, like what is going on? And at the time I had been, I didn't know who Ben Burton was. I didn't know who anybody was, but I had been chatting with him. He was super friendly and given me a bunch of good advice on some tools. And I had been chatting with Ben. And so at that point, I sort of understood who he was after, you know, several chats and some snooping around on the internet. And so I messaged him and I said, "Ben, you're not the only famous person liking my pictures now," just kind of teasing him, you know. And he said, "What? Which one?" And he shared it for me on his page. And it was like literally, I mean, everything changed for me then. And I hear a lot of people, you know, talking shit about riding coattails of other artists, or you wouldn't be anybody if this person hadn't. But it's like, you know, we're all here to help each other. You know, certainly Ben was a large part of people knowing who I was and knowing about Bacon Face. And I'm super grateful. When he had his show, you know, I think it was maybe a year after that or so, or maybe months after that. I don't know, remember the time frame. He had a show at Goosefire, and he asked me to collab with him for the first sort of Claw Club series collabs.
Yeah, the Talents and Tentacles show.
That was, oh yeah. And that was, I mean, such an amazing help too. He was super, super helpful. I don't know that if he hadn't helped me in those two instances, if anybody would really know. Sometimes, you know, people just have to show you the way. Lucky for me, almost everybody loves breakfast food, and humans are programmed to love smiles. And so people just had to be shown. And I don't know, it's not that I have incredible artistry or anything. It was just a good idea. You know, people really like eggs and bacon and smiles. I lucked out.
Yeah. You know, you really, I mean, just kind of a side note. Well, for one, Ben is awesome. He's a great guy. I don't know him personally. Yeah. I've messaged him here and there, and I've tried to bring him on the show, and he's kind of gone back and forth with it, which is fine because a lot of artists out there are not one to want to, you know, talk on the radio and what have you, which is cool. But yeah, I like him because he's a awesome personality, and he's a catalyst for a lot of people like yourself. And to be quite honest, I was super envious and jealous when I saw his flamingo claw with your bacon and egg face pendant in there. I was like super excited for you, and like, holy shit, I want to get one of my owl faces in there somehow, please.
You know, the first time I saw some claw collabs, like I saw them on the internet, you know, and I immediately just in my head I saw my bacon face inside one, and I was like, this is happening. I need this to happen. I just saw it, and then I just manifested it, and then it was only a couple weeks later, and he's so funny, and I mean, you know, I remember when the message came through, and he said, "Hey, ... would you be interested in making the best bacon face cab you've ever made for a collab in my Goosefire show?" And of course, the answer was hell yes. And it honestly took me 13 tries to get a cab that I thought was worthy of that show. I sold them all as first. They were fine, but they weren't good enough for Ben, right. You know? But it was such a great experience. I'm so honored to be a part of that. You know, really, really awesome. Yeah,
that was cool because for me, like seeing the collaborative shows even that were going on, that was like one of the first, like really, as a solo artist, having a collaborative part of the show, you know, out there was, you know, for me seeing that personally, that was like the first one I saw, and then seeing all the little things he was doing. But your bacon and egg face like totally stood out of the whole group. You know, it's pretty.
Yeah, it was so much fun.
Yeah, it's badass.
Yeah, I got to be part. There was a space show like a year later. Remember that space theme show? Yep. It went down in Colorado, and I got to be a part of that as a surprise. I had done a series of collabs with Jolex before, which was also like super amazingly awesome. Super grateful for those opportunities as well. we did like a few different batches, combining Bacon Face with his incredible space scenes, and we called them Bacon Space. And so he happened to have a cab left over that had sort of, I think it had, there was something that had gone wrong with it that he was able to then later fix. And I'm so glad that he kept that. And he surprised me. He sent me a message and he said, "Hey, do you want to be in the show?" And I was like, "Yeah, of course I do." And it was just, completely by surprise. That was really fun. Because, again, I'm not the best glass blower in the world. I've got, I know how to do some stuff. I can't exercise my sort of functional skills at this point. But because Bacon Face is, so well liked, I've been able to collab with some really amazing artists.
Yeah, that's cool.
Nady Bizkind also surprised me. I like the surprise collabs when you don't know they're going down.
Yeah. They're like, "Send me some of your glass." Like when you and I collabed, and I actually sent you my blanks, and you're like freaking out, like, "I don't want to fuck these up." I'm like, "Dude, just do it.
Did.
Just do it." What the hell?
But I did though.
Oh, we got them, and I got them in the mill, and they sold the next day. So they were awesome. And this next collab we're doing.
I look forward to the next one. It'll be a lot better since I sent you the prep. You're more of the assembler than I am,
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Anybody listening to you may be listening to this years down the road, but currently listening to it, yeah, Adrienne and I have a collab going down here pretty soon. That's unfortunately going to be one of her last collabs potentially because of the health issues. So, for me, honey, it's a honor and a privilege to be that person to be able to put your glass on my glass. It's interesting and sad and humbling and rewarding all at the same time, But
yep, I've got a few pieces out right now for collab, and those will basically be the end of my functional works.
Yeah.
That'll be it. Yeah.
Well, we need to talk about branding. Maybe not this discussion, but there's definitely a way for you to continue doing what you're doing with your brand where you can make a living. Whether it's T-shirts, bumper stickers, hats, whatever, and continue this whole thing. And even if you bring apprentices on and show them your ways of doing things, and they create your work, I mean, there's got to be a way to continue your
I have
model.
been thinking about that. I'm such a control freak, you know what I mean? That it's like I've always sort of shied away from having other people make them for me. But if I'm really no longer able to make them, then it might be better than having them not made at all.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because I it's not that I don't want anybody else out there making them, but I would prefer that if it's your thing, that you're the one making the monetary side of it, because it needs to happen and continue, and it also would keep you in the community. I mean, if you're saying you're a control freak, then you probably would be a great master teacher, leader, because of that. Because I'm the same way. It's like it's hard for me to let things go sometimes, but when I do let them go, it seems they go better than when I would have done them. Kind of by standing back and letting them happen. So, yeah, I'd like to discuss
I mean, I am sort of freaking out about what I'm going to do to support myself. Glass has been my only income for so many years. And it's like, that's the only reason why, even though I've been so sick for the past few years, that I've continued, because I have no idea any other way to pay my bills. You know, that's pretty much it. Yeah,
talking with Luke on the last episode about the whole copywriting ideas and trademarks and stuff, there's certain areas in what we do that we got into the whole functional conversation. Like once something becomes functional, it's hard to trademark it or copyright it, whatever. But a pendant, a certain look, a style, a brand, it's probably able to become trademarked. Like that could become your thing, legally trademarked, where you can hold the law for it, where if anybody else reproduces them and makes money on them, you could sue them and say, "Hey, you got to stop making this," type of thing. Which, as an artist, it's like, there's all this biting, bullshit conversation that's always going on out there. But specifically for you, in your case, this may actually be something that could start a trend or could start a whole new presence in terms of the industry as trademarking and copywriting brands. Yeah, like we talked the other day, I hate that you're going through this, but there's got to be something out there as a reason why you specifically are going through this.
I agree. I've it's a very humbling experience all of a sudden being chronically ill. And I'm learning a lot of lessons, life lessons that I never would have been able to learn without this. And so from a personal standpoint, I can see why I needed this. Certainly, shit, I wish I could have learned those lessons without this.
Right.
That would have been nice.
Yeah.
But it wasn't happening. And so, balance, I was always going, work, no time for fun. I just have to work. So balance, is a lesson that I'm learning from this. And, this is unrelated to glass, but I was honestly really shallow before. I know that's terrible, right? And I knew I was shallow. And I knew that it wasn't good, but I couldn't really change the way that I felt. Just really concerned with what I looked like, really worried about physical appearances. And at this point, oh my God, I would love to be fat and ugly if I could be healthy. You know what I mean? Like, I'm really like realizing like how much that shit just doesn't matter at all.
Yeah.
And it's like, without this illness, I wouldn't have that perspective. And then from, the other standpoint of like, why am I sick in a grander sense? I think it's to help people. If I can possibly, really, I've been initially, my goal was to really heal myself through diet and lifestyle change. And I would like to be able to help others do the same. I'm really trying to avoid as many medications as possible. I have made some huge improvements in my health. Based on these diet changes. And, since I've been doing that, I've been, very open about sharing information and anything that I can with anyone else who is suffering. I've helped, I would say, like a dozen people, with similar health issues change their diets and improve their lifestyle as well. I'd like to do that on a grander scale. I plan on starting a food blog, a health blog, and perhaps writing a cookbook at some point. So, I think there are definitely a number of different reasons why I got sick. It just would have been cooler if I could have accomplished all of that stuff without getting sick. But I guess that's not how it works.
Yeah, I know. Unfortunately. Yeah, I agree.
No. Yeah.
The universe is weird sometimes. It's like you try to question it, and then it's like, why even bother? Because there's no freaking answers.
No, I mean, there are, but, it's hard to get at them.
Yeah, exactly. You just got to know how to listen to it. So...
Yep, absolutely.
I wanted to get into. I guess I wanted to go over the lightning round with you because it's like a typical show thing with glass artists. But I feel like it's almost torturous doing that with you. I don't know. So
where do you see yourself in 5 years? Hopefully alive. You know what I mean?
Exactly. So yeah, I'm gonna personally hold back from doing that because I think like the whole overall conversation that we're talking about is way more important, because
I don't even know if I would have all the answers to your lightning questions. At this point, I'm still, in the scene. It's my people. That's what I am. But at the same time, I'm so consumed by my health and just trying to get better that it's like. I used to be so passionate about glass, and it was my everything. I was pretty much married to it. And at this point, this is going to sound terrible, and I hope that you all don't shun me for saying this, but I could give a shit. I just want to feel better, So it's just like, I don't even care anymore as much as, at least to the capacity that I did before about having to give up my passion. I can find something else, I guess. I just want to get better.
Yeah, I think your passion's, which is helping people, hence coming on here. Like you said, you want to do a cookbook and start a blog, and, you'd be amazed by how many people, through the blog atmosphere out there. I mean, shit, you could do a freaking podcast like this. I mean, I'm not going to say it's easy to do because it's not, and the recording part is somewhat easy, but like it's a process. But that being said, you could still do something of this nature where you could, be in your room, not out in the sun, staying healthy, and still communicating to the world about this stuff, because it's not just the glass community. There's people out there on a daily basis that deal with these health concerns and issues, and they're like, what the hell is wrong with me? I have no idea what's going on.
Oh, and I'm running into that, and I'm actually sort of immersing myself in this sort of autoimmune health world at the same time, not only helping others, but getting help myself. The Western medical industry field or whatever, they're not educated on this. They're not that helpful. It's a new thing, unfortunately, the way that it's blowing up like this. And the most help that, as autoimmune patients that we get is really from each other. And so I have been really heavily involving myself in that on social media. And I've, made a lot of good connections, and, I'm just making an unbelievable amount of friends that are just as sick as I am. And it's really sad, but at the same time, it's uplifting because we're not in this alone. We all have each other for support, which is really amazing.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's so important. That's why, part of this community as a glass artist, I love so much because, we are all a big family and we're all passionate about what we do. We all share stories, but we can also start opening up about these type of issues. Like I'm going to do a whole week that's going to be dedicated just to mental health issues, because a lot of artists, if not every artist, has some sort of mental health issue, whether it's ADHD, depression, schizophrenia, something,
I would say every single one.
Yeah.
I mean, straight up, I can't personally speak for everyone, but the link between being creative and mental illness is huge. And I often think of it as sort of the price that you pay, I guess. Do you know what I mean? For the gifts that we get. Yeah. But there's something with the brain chemistry that goes hand in hand. If you suffer from mental illness, generally the parts of your brain that deal with creativity are working more fluidly or whatever. There's a definite real connection there.
Yeah, it's interesting. Hell yeah. So is there, I guess, kind of finalize this whole situation, is there, if you want to give us some parting piece of advice to any new or older OG glassblowers, that are dealing either with health issues or not with health issues, or have these in their family that could potentially...
Interesting statistics about autoimmune disease. If you have a family member that has autoimmune disease, you are I don't know the numbers, but you're way more likely to get one. But the interesting part is that you're not as likely to get the same one. Like my mother has rheumatoid arthritis, which is very similar to lupus, and they're sort of sister diseases. But because my mother has that, I was more likely to develop one, but not necessarily the one that she has. And so if any of y'all have family members that have, there are so many. There's at this point, I think there's close to 100 autoimmune diseases that have been sort of classified, and they're discovering new ones every day. So, if any of your family members has any sort of autoimmune disease, psoriasis is an autoimmune disease. There are some that just affect your skin. There's IBD. There's stuff that affects your stomach. There's so many different kinds. And if you have a family member that has one, that puts you at a much greater risk for developing any of them.
Heck yeah. So
and ventilation. Yeah. I can't stress ventilation enough. Ventilation.
Hell yeah. Well, thank you so much again for coming on here and sharing your stories. And I would like to, if you're okay with it, maybe in 2-3 months from now, do a follow up just after you go to your doctors and get your diagnosis if that happens, and then to further discuss this, because this has to continue. I'm all about continuing these discussions on a regular basis, whether it's through Instagram, Facebook, social media, whatever, but also through this medium as well. I like to continue this going. So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no problem. Well, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, hell yeah. Before we get off the phone, can you tell us how we can reach you in cyberspace?
Oh, yep. I am Glass Happy on Instagram. That is the best way to reach me. I'm on Facebook, but it's more of a personal thing at this point. Mm-hmm. So Glass Happy on Instagram, that is the best place to get at me.
Okay. And anybody out there that's listening to this that is dealing with any kind of lupus, any kind of issues like this is, if you're going to, say start a blog or anything like that, how would they best get a hold of you?
I'll be announcing it on my Instagram. I'll be posting, stuff from the blog on there as well.
Okay, fantastic. Awesome.
Yep.
I look forward to doing this again on hopefully a better note.
Yeah, let's hope, right?
Yeah, fingers crossed. All right, girl, take it easy.
All right, thanks so much.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you guys so much for listening to this episode of the Wise Guy Radio Show. If you have any questions, comments, or remarks, please leave them in the show notes page area where it says comments. We'll see you soon. Have a wise night.
You're listening to the